Now, what happens with the investor cycle and the VCs, of course, and this is one of the challenges of the field and that is several-fold. I guess one is really thinking about the different type of investments and cycles, right? So you have a lot of the recent legislation and the budgets which governments are putting aside to support the infrastructure. My sense is that more and more that can only be effective, especially with complex topics like this and infrastructure, when they are kind of public and private. And I think the fact that there's an increasing willingness and actually money and checks being written on the sort of public side, plus legislation, plus different long-term funding by institutions, plus then the VCs can have a role. I think the VCs are more challenged when they're meant to step up for things that they don't feel are necessarily the asset allocation or the capital allocation that warrant their kind of risk-return profile. Even though, obviously, when a venture fund goes into climate tech, hopefully they understand that it's not a consumer gadget or TikTok lookalike. But so that context, I think, is supportive. You know, we talk a lot about the negative inflection points and the dangerous turning points around climate, but there are some virtuous inflection points, I think, around some of these themes and decarbonization, which then will make it more comfortable for VCs to invest. Now, I think the final point I want to kind of make, which is probably one of the most important and difficult ones for sort of the VCs to get around, is the challenge of appreciating the complexities of climate. In other words, you're dealing with the raw material debates, you're dealing with the complexities. I mean, you're one of the best examples there is of complex adaptive living systems of a city, of urban life, of transport. And so each innovation, whether it's cement for better buildings, or whether it's micromobility, or whether it's, you know, battery life or storage or what have you, each of those separately are kind of like point solutions. And really the only way you'll get effective energy transition, of course, is if we make that distinction between, you know, point solutions and transformative and systemic innovation. If we understand that normally in the VC world, if you think about the NASA technology readiness level and you think about 0 being academic research and 9 being commercially available, normally once you hit 6 or 7, you're kind of about to roll it out, you've tested things, you're comfortable in a sense in relation to developing the technology and prototyping it, and you get sometimes what you call the, you know, the Silicon Valley or technological valley of death. And here you struggle to gain the funding despite the proof of concept in controlled environments to scale it. Now, the additional challenge, and this is the thing why it's so important to have, you know, VCs that have the right people, the right skills, and right understanding of actually the topics we're talking about, complexity, systemic change, and that, is that in addition to the sort of technology valley of death of not getting the funding post proof of concept, is the commercialization valley of death for green investments. And we're not using this in the sense of a valley of death that's insurmountable. We talk about something that we just need to understand, that when you scale and roll out complex technologies or innovations which interact with the complex world, and most of the decarbonization and transport and all of this is complex adaptive systems, you can't treat it as a kind of point solution. And my hope is that as the industry matures, as the understanding of investors improve, as some of the virtuous inflection points continue to develop and the funding, is that those who work in VCs and who support and those advisors understand some of the things we're talking about from a practical use case pain point perspective, to see how to drive transformative innovation versus a tick the box. It's a bit like greenwashing. It unfortunately doesn't move the needle. But that distinction, more and more venture capitalists, I know it because I see the way a lot of these VCs and advisors and companies think, and more they understand this commercialization valley of death and the complexities of scaling in real life. And I'm saying this not in a negative way. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, therefore people shouldn't invest. I'm saying that the better understanding one has of what the nuances and differences are for climate and what drives transformative innovation, the better the VC money can be allocated to real pain points, to real solutions, which will drive change as opposed to kind of tick the box thing. And that's that for me is really how to get VCs to think about that.